Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody? It's good to see you. Let's do a roll call on the way in. And we got a good show for you. Thanks for being here. All right. Maryland in the house. Western Massachusetts, welcome. How's the sound? Does everything sound okay? Does it sound all right to you? All right. Sounds all right to me. Welcome. Happy Saturday evening. I hope your Saturday has gone as expected, if not better, hopefully not worse. Progress, not perfection. Ohio, Florida, where the crazies live. The crazies are everywhere, Brandon. They're everywhere. We're all crazy. We are all crazy. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. It is so nice to be here with you on this Saturday evening. Thank you for making me part of your weekend. And I want sort of the people that got here a little bit early, I wanted to share. I have a new video dropping in the next day or so. It is documentary based, short documentary. And I'm going to play a little preview of it for you. A little taster. All right. Little, teaser. Little something. I worked hard on it, so I hope you guys will like it. You know what? I'm just gonna see. Let me just give it a little play here. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1945, a fire destroyed the Sauter residence in Fayetteville, West Virginia. At the time, it was occupied by George Sauter, his wife Jenny, and 9 of their children. George, Jenny, and 4 of the 9 children escaped. The bodies of the other 5 children have never been found. The surviving Sauter family believed for the rest of their lives that the 5 missing children survived. The Sauters never rebuilt the house, instead converting the site into a memorial garden to the lost children. In the 1950s, as they came to doubt that the children had perished, the family put up a billboard at the site along State Route 16 with pictures of the 5, offering a reward for information that would bring closure to the case. It remained standing until shortly after Jenny Sauter's death in 1989. This is the story of the Sauter children, up in smoke. West Virginia's biggest mystery. And I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and this is The Lab. And in most cases, it's hard to know where to start, especially when it comes to a story that involves 10 different people, multiple decades, dozens of theories. This truly is one of the most bizarre stories that I've ever heard. So we'll start with the head of the household, George Sauter. George Sauter was born with the name Giorgio Sadu. He was born in Tula, Sardinia, Italy in 1895. He immigrated to the United States 13 years later with an older brother who went back as soon as both boys had cleared customs at Ellis Island. For the rest of his life, George, as he became known, would not talk much about why he left his homeland. Sauter eventually found work on the railroads in Pennsylvania, carrying water and other supplies to workers. After a few years, he took more permanent work in Smithers, West Virginia. He then started his own trucking company, initially hauling fill dirt to construction sites and later hauling coal mine in the region. Jenny Cipriani, a storekeeper's daughter in Smithers, who had also immigrated from Italy in her childhood, became George's wife. The Sauters settled outside near Fayetteville, which had a large population of Italian immigrants, in a 2-story timber-framed house 2 miles north of town. And in 1923, they had their first of their 10 children. George's business prospered, and they became the most respected middle-class families around, in the words of one local official. However, George had strong opinions about many subjects and was not shy about expressing them, sometimes alienating people, in particular, his strident opposition, Benito Mussolini, had led to some strong arguments with other members of the immigrant community. The last of the Sauter children, Sylvia, was born in 1943. By then, their second oldest son, Joe, had left home to serve in the military during World War II. The following year, Mussolini was deposed and executed. However, George's criticism of the late dictator had left some hard feelings. In October 1945, a visiting insurance salesman, after being rebuffed, warned George that this house would go up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed, attributing this to the dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini. Another visitor to the house, ostensibly seeking work, took the occasion to go around to the back and warn George that a pair of fuse boxes would cause a fire someday. George was puzzled by the observation, since he had just had the house rewired when an electric stove was installed, and the local electric company had said afterwards it was safe. In the weeks before Christmas that year, George's older son had also noticed a strange car parked along the main highway through town, its occupants watching the younger Sauter children as they returned from school. All right, there's your little sneak peek, guys, and it will, I think either tomorrow or Monday, it will be up and ready for you to take a look at. I'm proud of it, and I am I'm very excited to share it with you guys. So thank you to everybody who watches those short documentaries that I do. But I just want to thank you guys for that again. So without further ado, let's get into tonight's topic. Kiely Rodni's mother has spoken out. The other night when we were on the air, something happened that has happened before. And if you were watching the show at the time, what happened was there was some chatter about this girl's status and where it had originated from. I wasn't sure. And what happens is one person brings it up and then it starts to spread like wildfire, maybe faster than wildfire. And I understand why these things happen. I understand why it happens. And it's really something that it truly, and this is nothing, and I'm not talking about anybody who was talking about it in the chat. I'm not talking about, because it's not their fault. They're not the ones that did it. And I'll explain what I mean by that here shortly. But over the last 5 years, the term fake news has been everywhere, and I'm not particularly a big fan of that, but the phrase does ring true a lot, especially here on YouTube. And it's tragic and it's unfortunate and it's wrong. And it's a lot of things that are wrong with public forums, social media, everyone, freedom of speech, freedom. Yeah. Cool. Okay. You can still say something. That doesn't mean that there aren't real life repercussions. You may not go to jail for it, but you also could. Falsifying information, yelling fire in public, you'll get in trouble for, things like that. And it always happens when a new case comes around. Everybody wants to be the first. We've had this conversation before. And there are certain things that we can do to try to help this. And the most effective way is to only trust something once you can verify it. In today's fast-paced world of social media, fake news surrounds us every day. If you're not careful, you run the risk of believing and acting upon it. Take the time to follow up on the basic steps, these basic steps, to help ensure you make informed decisions based on facts. One of the major ones that we want to talk about today are considering the source. Consider the source. A screen recording of a police scanner posted to is not a trusted source. I don't care what you tell me. Okay? I've been on Twitter since 2009. It's a cesspool. You got to understand. It's a cesspool, folks. You can't, as soon as I heard a screen recording on Twitter circulating right then and there, that is your cue to question it immediately. A screen recording of a police scanner posted to Twitter is not a trusted source. It's just not. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. We're not splitting the atom here. It's just not. Now, what happens is we are all so emotionally invested in wanting things to come to a proper end and good news or any news to satisfy our curiosity. That is a normal thing, and I respect it. But you got to repost carefully. Fake news relies on believers to repost, retweet, or otherwise forward false information. If you're uncertain as to the authenticity of an article, think twice or hold off on sharing it with others. We have people that absolutely do not do this. They will never do this. They don't subscribe to this idea. It's about clicks and likes and shares and whatever. Damn everybody else. And I want to make this very clear. YouTube content creators are not a source of breaking news, and that includes me. No matter how many or how few subscribers they have. And that's a fact. Okay? It really is. It is just, it's just, not true. We all rely on law enforcement updates through media sources. So if the news is breaking, it's not actually through us. It comes from somewhere else. And to pretend otherwise is disingenuous. Disingenuous. It's just not true. YouTube, and I'm going to say this again, and I really, truly hope that you understand this, because you do. YouTube content creators, and I use that term extremely loosely, are not a source of breaking news. And anybody can get pissed off at me and say, take whatever shots they want and say this and that, but it does include me. I am not a source of breaking news, but I'm going to break some news now to you right now. This is not a breaking news channel. It's just not. You have to consider the source. Think about the actual source of the news. A local blog will not be as trustworthy as a major academic journal. What does it stand for and what are their objectives? What are the objectives of people that put breaking news on their lives on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube? What is it? What is of breaking? That's them breaking something that hasn't been broke by anybody. Somebody tell me something that I don't know because I don't understand it. Views, clicks, ad revenue, right? Gwyn says, but Josh, I trust you and I appreciate that, but you should also double check everything that I say. Usually never actually get to hear the breaking news. That's one other. So there used to be this show. And by the way, I loved this show. It was called Finding Bigfoot. It was on like the Discovery Channel or something. I loved Finding Bigfoot. And it was just a fascinating show. I don't know if I believe in Bigfoot. I don't care. It interests me, but you know, I've never seen a Bigfoot, but who knows? But the one thing that you never heard on that show, and no offense to those guys, but the one thing you never hear on that show is, hey, we found Bigfoot. The show is called Finding Bigfoot. Yet you never hear him say, hey, we found Bigfoot. Okay. Just, you know, that's just an observation. It's just an observation. Now, this is the most important part of the entire thing. And I want to be very clear about this. Got to consider the friends and families of the people being reported on. That's one of the most that is probably what is lost the most here. Okay. Kiely's family also spoke out about the rumors, calling them, quote, disappointing. That's an understatement. She's being nice. She's being nice. This poor lady is being nice. Quote, we were excited but measured when we heard about it. Because we've had information previously which turned out to be false. That's from a family of the spokesman told the U.S. Sun. Quote, it's incredibly disappointing it wasn't true. And we urge everyone not to share unfounded reports which may then circulate on social media. Imagine what that lady was going through, what those friends were going through. Imagine it. And I know that, you know, it's easy for us to sit up here and say things about, you know, these teenagers that were at a party. All of a sudden, we all become perfect parents. My child would have never been there. I would have had a tracker on my kid's car. I would have done this. I would have done that. Johnny Do-Good, Parent of the Year. You want to speculate? Then speculate. But say that's what you're speculating. You're not a breaking news station. We are not breaking any news here. We are not law enforcement. We don't speak for law enforcement. And the sooner people figure that out, the better. There's nothing wrong with talking about these cases. There's nothing wrong with speculating. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion. There's nothing wrong with being concerned and wanting to help. There's nothing wrong with it. But tearing families down before we even know a damn thing about this, well, I can't stand for that. And I also can't stand for the Twitter sleuths. You're not breaking anything. So don't act like you are. And by the way, 99% of the people that do shows like this are not journalists of any kind, even though we all pretend to be. Even though we all pretend to have a journalistic side, very few content creators actually create content. I have a new name for it. Controversy creators. That is what we have become. Controversy creators. Not content. That's not content. Talking trash about a 17-year-old boy or whatever the hell his name is that gave an interview. You got to understand this young man is not a public speaker. The girl is not a public speaker. I don't care how many pauses she takes. I don't care how many deep breaths she takes. I don't care how many times she looks to the left, looks to the right, looks up. How many times has this young child been on TV? How many times has this young child been on TV? They're not public speakers. And by the way, making an amendment to your title after you already screwed up by telling people that this girl was found does not cut it. Shame on whoever does it. You are not breaking any news. You are not a media source. And it pissed me off the other night, and I'm still kind of pissed off about it, because I'll tell you, and I knew it. I knew that it was going to happen. I knew it. And you could see it on my face. I could feel it as soon as it started to happen. And God bless Chris, because he knew that I was getting mad, going, ugh. Okay, because here's the problem. It was possible. It was possible, and it could have been true. But it also could have not very likely been true. And the fallout from it not being true isn't going to devastate you or I in the way that it's going to devastate a group of 15 to 20 people, the close family and friends that we're already pointing fingers at when the cops say they don't even have any leads. But, we have them. We have leads. We have suspicions. The little kid wore his hat down too far. Oh, Lord, the little kid wore his hat down too far. He's guilty. What? Why is this girl not crying in her interview? She's obviously not sad. Why? I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know her. I don't know her, but I do know that it devastated this mother so badly that she made a public statement about it. And that she has to tell people to not share any unfounded reports, which may then circulate on social media. How do we not know that already? How do we not know that already? We talk about it again. The Candace fake call. It had everything there to be right, to be true. It seemed true. It had a lot of people fooled. It had me scratching my head going, oh, wow. And yet we couldn't get an answer from law enforcement on whether this was true or not. And thank God the official verified sheriff's Twitter, officially verified with the blue check mark, came out and said it's not true. And it still took a long time for this to die down. It still took a long time for people to understand that it wasn't true. And it's not the people's fault. I'm not saying that we or you or anybody else started this rumor. I've spread a rumor before too that I thought was true. One time I told on Timmy, I said Timmy ate the glue. I didn't see Timmy eat the glue, but everybody was saying Timmy ate the glue. He didn't eat the glue. The kid whose mouth was glued shut ate the glue. And before it glued shut, he was the one that told everybody Timmy did it. Unfounded. Oh, yeah. You know, that doesn't surprise me one bit. That doesn't surprise me one bit. But I'll reiterate this again. YouTube content creators are not a source of breaking news. It's just not. They're just not. If you want to be a source of breaking news, then, well, you can go to school for that. Matter of fact, if I had any news to break, say I solved somehow a 30-year-old cold case, I'm not announcing personally that I'm not announcing it. That's not my job. I'll talk about it. That's about it. And USA Pal says, Josh, I'm so glad you're voicing this. It was much needed for protecting the victims. Thank you so much for the super chat. And yeah, I agree. But, you know, to be honest with you, it really did hamper. When I say hamper, you know, it was incredibly disappointing. And I don't even know the girl. And I hope that she comes home safe. But the first thing that I thought of was, can you imagine having a child that's missing? Like think about this, folks. Think about when your kid hasn't come home. They're a half an hour late. Think about that feeling. And they're not answering their phone. Think about that. They're not answering their phone. It's they're out past their bedtime or whatever, then when they're supposed to be home. Think about that. You get this feeling in your gut. Like it's just, there's a hole in it. 30 minutes. Then an hour. And by the way, each second Each second, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And it doubles and it triples and it quadruples. And you can't sit down. And your heart's beating out of your chest. And you see a car go by and you see one pulling into your driveway and you go, it's them. They're here. And all it is somebody turning around. And then it's worse again. That is a small fraction of what that lady experienced and is experiencing, and that family is experiencing right now. Right now. And I'm just going to say it, bullshit amendments to your shows don't mean anything. It is not an apology. It's not going to cut it. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. Because I have 2 teenage sons. And when it's 10 minutes past the time that I told them to be home and they're not home, I'm in the car and I'm hunting them down. Call after call. I'm scared. I'm terrified. I'm calling their friends. Hey, have you seen them? Have you seen them? And they say no. And it's one gut punch after the next, and on and on and on and on and on. And on. And then we go to tear down kids. Okay. Well, what evidence do we have to show that the kids that have done interviews or drove the family or drove the news to certain spots, shared their thoughts and their feelings about this young girl, and yet we crucify them? We crucify them. We put them under a microscope because of our gut instincts. I'll tell you this right now. I spoke with young Jagger. I don't want him on my show. I don't want him on my show. But what I told him was that I was sorry that people are doing this. And he said, thank you. And I told him that it's not right. And I said, and it's going to get worse. Trust me. Because you thought you did the right thing by speaking out. You thought you did the right thing by doing media. You thought you did the right thing, son, by coming out and trying to do something right in the public eye. And all it does is come back to bite you. I don't know anything about the kid. I don't know what all I know is that he wasn't there according to him. I don't know anything about this girl, Sammy. Never met her, never talked to her. Don't care to. But I know that if these kids, and by the way, we're talking about high schoolers, okay? And one of the things I saw in the comments was there Kylie's 16. She graduated early. Yeah, okay. Well, she's 16. Most 16-year-olds are in high school. I apologize, Like I said, it sucks. It sucks. I didn't mean to say that she didn't. I know. I didn't know. And if you think that kids gathering at a party is some new thing, it's not. It's not. I went to parties when I was a kid, probably 16, 15, 16, 17. And by the way, they were always trouble. Somebody was always getting in a fight. Somebody's car was always getting keyed. Somebody was trying to kiss somebody else's significant other. It was just a constant, none of these places were safe. None of these places were good, but I was a kid and we did it. We went to parties. We all went to parties. Well, most of us. And yeah, a lot of bad stuff happened at some of those parties. And a lot of people showed up that weren't invited. That was a constant. What is that person doing here? I don't like his group. Why are they here? There's a constant. It constantly happened. Oh, so-and-so just got punched outside. He's knocked out in the grass. What happened? I don't know. We better get out of here. I remember one time, and my sister will probably, I don't care. This was a long time ago. She had just moved out and got her own place. And me and my sister have always been close. So she moved out with, at the time, was my girlfriend, who I ended up marrying later. And they wanted to throw a small party, and it was a small party. The people that were invited were close friends, and we were partying. We were, drinking, smoking, whatever dumb kids do. Because that's what we were. We were dumb kids. And it was, thank you so much for that, Patty. It was up, check this out. So it was up in the top floor of a Victorian house, and it was like good size. The top was really, 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 really good size. And I think there was about 20 people or so, something like that. Something like 20 people or something like, nothing. And then there was about 30, about 40. And by the time the police had been called, and they definitely had been called, and they cleared the house out, they counted 324 people at that party by midnight. And half of us had to sit on the sidewalk while the cops went through and cleared everybody out. So the party spilled from upstairs down to the stairwell, onto the sidewalk, across the street. And it was anarchy. It was chaos. It was something I mean, by the way, I remember somebody pointing out to me that there was some kids from a gang. We didn't know these kids. They weren't invited. They just showed up. They just showed up. And what are you going to do? Four kids went to the hospital that night. One had a bottle smashed over his head downstairs. The other one was got jumped by a couple other kids. I can't remember. I think somebody had a asthma attack, so I guess I guess I count that. And then somebody else got ran over by a car. Somebody leaving the party, they were trying to stop him from leaving, and they rolled up over the car. I mean, it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And it got out of hand. And it got out of hand fast. And I always remember thinking how much worse it could have been. And Love Peak, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. That's really awesome of you. And congratulations to the people that were gifted. It got out of hand. And I'm thinking back now, 20 years now. I was probably 16, 17 at the time. I think about that now when I hear this story going, how somebody absolutely could have disappeared. Somebody absolutely could have died. Things got out of hand fast, similar to what probably happened at this party. I don't think it's too far of a stretch to think that things got out of hand at this party. That doesn't seem like a stretch. Drugs, alcohol, and children, humans for that matter, not even children, but humans for that matter. It doesn't go well. It's never good. Some of the most uncomfortable places I have ever been in my life are around drunk people at bars, baseball games. I remember being a kid going to Candlestick Park, and we were surrounded by just like older drunk guys who were like angry that the team sucked. And, you know, they didn't care if there were little kids around, and they're like, ah. So there's no way that a party that kids are at, even young adults for that matter, bad things happen there. I just so happen to be lucky enough to never have anything bad like that happen to me personally or my family. I've heard of it. People get stabbed at parties all the time. I read it like in my, not even in my, just in my county, I hear about it all the time. And we're going to sit here and criticize kids for the same things that we used to do. And okay, I get it. My kid would never be there. You don't know that. Kids have a crazy ability to pull the wool over their parents' eyes. They have an insane feel for it. Because we want to believe that our kids do the right things all the time. And that's just not how it happens. Time to move to. When I say all the time, it happens. Jen P says, I'm getting mad at all these people talking like this party was something that never happens. They're saying, Where are the parents and the chaperones? They weren't invited. That's where they were. That's where they were. All right. Not invited, not told about it. My kid would never be there. Yeah, right. Hey, all new to the channel. I did stuff my parents still don't know about, and I'm 48 now. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think most of us could say that. So I don't know if Kiely was abducted, and I don't know if she overdosed or drove into a body of water, or that somebody had something to do with her disappearance, or that somebody knows something, or that a kid wearing a hat too low shifts his eyes back and forth, which makes me suspicious of him. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. And I'm not going to pretend that I do either. And I'm not going to pretend like a party of 200 to 300 kids isn't kind of a thing that happens all the time. I was reading some about, they were talking about play fighting or whatever, bringing boxing gloves. Dude, we used to go to the duck pond when people wanted to get in a fight. We would say, wait till after school. We'll go to the duck pond and do it. We take boxing gloves down there. That's a different time, and now people just tend to shoot each other or whatever, but it's just kind of a normal thing. It's not out of the ordinary that these parties, these get-togethers happen. And like I said, I don't know who. Here, let's see. Lola says chaperones at a high school party. It doesn't happen. Right, because they're not invited because nobody's going to tell them. Nobody's going to tell them. Wake and Bake 420 says the question is who hosted the party? The kids that weren't supervised that grew huge. I don't know what that means. That grew huge. I don't know. I don't know who hosted the party. We didn't have a park. We had a boat ramp, but completely happened every weekend. Absolutely. Think about when you were in high school. Every weekend you were looking for something to do. And my God, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. That more of these kind of situations don't happen. So then we go from being so emotionally charged, talking about I'm a perfect parent. Where were the chaperones? Where were the this? Where were the that? The party was in the woods, no host, just kids. Yeah, it was at a campground. They just kind of show up. You just kind of went. I remember my aunt, she had this garage, and there was really nothing in there. And I remember we would put streamers up and like get black lights and fog machines, and then we'd hook up big bass speakers, and it was a blast, but it always ended the same. And how it always ended the same was there was a fight and everybody had to take off because the cops always broke them up. Jamie Johnson said, my mom was the head dispatcher and I still went and did stupid things. Not, it's going to be a little harder to get away with stuff. Terry says, isn't a chaperone party an oxymoron? Yeah, I think it is. We went to the mountains, found a campsite. You're not going to stop them. You're not going to stop the kids from partying. Criticizing how much makeup they wear and saying she looks shady to me. Oh my God. The new lows we go to. Talking about these kids. Were these kids doing stuff that they weren't supposed to do? Yes. Should they have been doing what they were doing? No. Is it going to stop? No. But the one thing that we can do in this situation, without any evidence of anything, without any special knowledge of anything, is we can not make it worse. We cannot make it worse because that seems to be what we do. You want to talk about the case? You want to have an opinion about the case? There's nothing wrong with any of that. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's actually, there's bringing awareness isn't a bad thing. We've been talking about this for, close to an hour, and I have not broken any news to you that you didn't know tonight about this case. But hopefully you got something out of it. I know I did. And I know I am. But I'm not breaking any news. I'm not saying that I'm not going to sit there and analyze a kid that just went on the local news and gave his account of what he thought. I don't know the girl Sammy. I don't know. I don't know them, and I don't know what they do, and I don't really care what they do. The one thing that we know is that Kiely Rodni is missing, and she's been missing, and still we have no solid leads, no facts, and what we have was a false screen recording from Twitter that people that have been doing this way longer than I have ran with, and I can guarantee you they knew better. And just in case it was true, they ran with it anyway, instead of holding off because they wanted praise and they wanted to be the first, and they don't care about being right. And then they can amend what they say through their titles. The Joy Catcher says it's okay to question the timeline and facts, but be superficial things bear no weight. I guess. I mean, yeah, sure. You can question anything you want. There's ways to do it. I heard people talking. I don't even know what channel this was, but They were talking about, well, those kids were off in the woods having sex. How do you know? I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but that's not a matter of fact. This is a stupid thing to say. This is a stupid thing to say. Because there's no validity. None. Like I said, just saying stuff to say stuff. They would rather be wrong and first than right and last. And that is a major character flaw, especially when you want to broadcast to hundreds, if not thousands of people, your thoughts and opinions. You owe more than that. Think about the mother. Think about the family. That was tragic. That was tragic. And the fact that this lady had to come out and give a public statement that said Kiely's family also spoke out about the rumors, calling them disappointing. We were excited but measured when we heard about it because we've had information previously which turned out to be false. It's incredibly disappointing it wasn't true. And when she says incredibly disappointing, she means gut-wrenching and that it sucks the life right out of her. Because like I said, if you've experienced your kid coming home late, you can relate to this a little, sort of. It's incredibly disappointing. It wasn't true. And we urge everyone not to share any unfounded reports, which may then circulate on social media. She's asking us to not do it. She's asking people like me to not do that. And I'm here to tell her, I don't know if she watched, probably not. She's got better things to do. But I'll respect it. I respect it. Yeah, I don't want to hear about her falling back asleep. I don't care. I don't even know what the hell that means. Like, dude, fall back asleep? Like, people get tired and exhausted. And I mean, oh my God, she knows something. She fell back asleep. She must be on heroin. I don't care about that. I don't care. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. People aren't as smart as they think they are. Whether or not they're smart or not, it doesn't matter. Everybody thinks that they're smarter than they are, especially people like me who do this. We all think that we're smarter and more clever and much more well-read than the next person, and that we can read people in ways that other people can't. Well, that's not true either. Kim Claflin says it happened to me where my son didn't come home one time. Didn't answer his phone all day. He was 16, almost 17. I almost called the police. I was in a panic all day. Not that long ago, my sister, whose son turned 18, my nephew, called me. It was like 11, 12 in the morning. So it was like midnight. And she says, have you heard from your nephew? And I said, no. She goes, well, he left on his bike about 3 hours ago and he's never been out this late. I keep calling his phone, but he's not answering. And she's like, I'm getting really scared. And I told her, I said, Suzanne, he's 18. She goes, I know, but he's never been out this late. I said, I understand. He's 18. That was what I tried to calm her down with. It didn't work. And I said, okay, let's, I tried to call his phone and I texted him, no answer, no reply. So about an hour goes by and I'm starting to get nervous. And I'm about to go look for him, even though he's an adult and legally an adult and has the right to go where he wanted to go. I call her back and I said, now listen, when he comes home, do not, and I repeat this, do not freak out on him. I know that you're going to want to, and your emotions are going to be high, and you're going to want answers, but it'll only make things worse. It will only make things worse. And as I'm on the phone with her, he walks through the door. I can hear it open. And she goes, where have you been? She's not talking to me anymore, but I'm still on the phone. Where have you been? I said, Suzanne. I said, put him on the phone. She puts him on the phone. I said, hey, your mom's going to give you hell here in a minute. Let her do it. Let her do it. Don't get upset. You got to understand what she was going through. And I said, but why weren't you answering your phone? He says, Uncle Josh, I was riding my bike. My phone was in my backpack. I said, okay. I said, she's going to give it to you, buddy. Now just let her do it. She just loves you. That's where this is going to come from. And I hang up the phone. And I let a little time go by and I text him. I said, you good? And he says, yep. I said, you understand why she did that? Yep. You okay? Yep. I text my sister, you okay? Yeah. And when him and I had that conversation, he was saying, but Uncle Josh, I'm 18. I said, yeah, I know. But if you live with her and you're gone and she doesn't know where you are, she's going to worry the same way I worry. Because I worry about my children as well. I don't care how old they are, young they are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. Now, the chances and likelihood of him coming back were very high. I didn't really think anything was wrong with him. I was concerned for my sister because of how upset she was. She was incredibly upset. And I knew that when he walked through that door, her emotions were going to hit a fever pitch. And he could have very well turned right back around and walked right out, not understanding why he was being attacked and persecuted and told that he was being irresponsible, which was true. People deserve to know where you're at, and if you're intentionally doing that to your parents or, any way, shape, or form, that's not right. But when I think about this lady, Kiely's mom, I can only relate to the fact that I've had just very small amounts of that exposure in my life. Very small amounts. And it was almost unbearable. And these parents of these missing children are living nightmares, real life nightmares. It's almost like their reality is reversed. Maybe the only piece that they get, and I doubt that they even really get this, is when they can rest. Because you're awake a lot more than you're asleep. Well, that's how it's supposed to be, but I don't know. And the only quenching, the only thing that will quench any of that will be an altered state, i.e., sleep. Because when she's awake, her life's hell. All their lives are hell. And it's sad. And we make it worse. We can't make it worse. We're supposed to be content creators, not chaos creators. And we get a little bit more chaos. Thank you, Josh. Imagine being falsely accused when a loved one has been taken. It has to stop. It's tough. And I don't know the family dynamics. I don't know, then we this person had a drug problem, and the mother took a bunch of Percocet in 1978. She's a real loser. And by the way, that's just me saying that. I don't know if that's true. I just made it up. I don't think that, and I don't know that, and I don't, that's just me saying something. But that's really what they do. That's what they do. And I'm not really that into that. It's not really what I do. It's not really my thing. But on the flip side of that, when somebody does something that's completely offensive to not only my senses, but just the sensibility of the universe, i.e., Dawn and Candace, and I don't even want to talk about them tonight because it's not about them, but sometimes circumstances are a bit different. We don't know what happened here. And even in that case, we don't know what happened, but we sure know how the parents have acted. And we have a large sample size of that. Jacqueline and Trezell, the same way. Dee Warner's husband, Dale. Larry Miliette. Barry Morphew. Okay? We're not there yet, folks. but we want to be from the very, very beginning. And that is not how this is supposed to work. Thank you for being here. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. This is The Lab.
Don't say any F's and stuff.